And I guess basically, so we kick off. Hello, Giulia. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, John. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Do you want to maybe just tell everybody then a little bit about who you are, what you do, and we can go from there?
Yeah, sure. Well, at the moment, I am working as a content curator for a company. That's a part-time job that I do. It's a company that does events in pop-up events. I work there giving my knowledge in what it's everything regarding retail trends, because my background is trend research. I come from working several years in the fashion industry, where I was working a lot in consumer trend research. I took a year for myself, and I studied at the Instituto Europeo de Design in Barcelona.
Yeah.
And from there, I started to work also as a freelance, as a trend researcher.
Okay.
Yeah, and more specifically, I do trend research regarding lifestyle and interior design. But of course, when you do trend research, you touch like all the aspects of society and of life. It's really a 360 research. Sometimes I found myself looking what they do at the MIT, what NASA does. It's like you never know in which way you're gonna connect the dots, and things that are happening at the fringe.
Mm. And so I guess from there then, I mean, what's the immediate impact over the last 2 months now that you've seen, for example, within your own remit?
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, and I talk on a personal point of view, it's been like shocking. It's like landing and saying, okay, what is happening? And the need to find like some filters to analyze what was going on, because it was like so far away, and then all of a sudden it was here. And I think it has affected like that different sectors in a different way. I guess as some sectors that were already working more with China had the possibility to a little bit have a longer overview. I was following some companies in Italy that already did a lot of trade with China, so they were already preparing, because somehow they saw it coming. But for example, when it comes to the work that I do for the startup, I went on vacation actually the very first 2 weeks before everything arrived here to Spain, and I went back and it was like, we don't have events anymore, everything is canceled. So it's been a process of continuous adjusting, because also the situation is changing so far. So I do think that you can do certain analysis of what it's happening and try to project it to the future, but until a certain extent, because still things are changing. We don't know very well the virus, how it's affecting our lives. So it is a constant reviewing of what's just happened and readjusting how much you can sort of predict of that it's happening in the future.
And have you seen just a complete drop off now from clients in terms of they're just trying to scramble now to see how to survive this moment, and they've put everything that they were planning on pause, or how have you seen it with some of the people you're working with?
When it comes to event, of course, it has been like canceling all the events, because and projects too. It's a moment that, even if I'm thinking about all the trends that I was working on just before the crisis started, it's like they just don't make so much sense anymore. So you need to go outside again and collect new signals that can tell you, okay, we are going in this direction, or anyways reshape that trend. I'm not saying that all the trends that were that were developing or in the making are disappearing or disappeared. But of course, some of them don't make so much sense with the lens that you were reading them. And some of them are speeding up, and some of them probably are gonna die, depending on also how things are going to develop in the short and long term, of course. But now when it comes to, for example, pop-ups event, of course, it's a completely new readjusting of how we can create a sort of type of events. And what we have seen is that it's amazing how we are able to reinvent ourselves just as human beings, and all the online events that there have been, and pop-up events too, all of different sorts. And I think it was last week that they did disco driving in Germany. So there was, it was very cool to see actually everybody arrived with the cars, and it was just like a concert, a techno concert. But then everybody was in their cars and they were participating with the honking and with the lights. So a lot of things are still on the making. So it is very difficult to make long-term predictions.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed things like that as well, in terms of things that usually happen in a public domain, like music concerts, for example, but almost instantaneously all these musicians now have been doing things on Instagram Live and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to know actually with the public space where that kind of stuff will happen, but so, I mean, moving from the trend stuff then, I guess, into the content stuff that you've been doing for your part-time work, how have that client responded to this? How has that client responded to this turn of events over the last 2 months?
Well, I mean, with a lot of companies, we put things on hold. With those that we were okay saying, and we are an international company, which means that we do events everywhere. And for example, now what we see is that Germany is picking up a little bit faster. So over there, we see that we are getting already people saying, okay, maybe towards middle summer, towards the end of summer, or already planning. There's more positive outlook to the whole situation. And what we have seen anyways is that they're asking a lot of like help in understanding how they can reset their events. But of course, it's something that also for us, it's a little bit difficult in certain ways, because how can we understand how things are going to develop? What we have been trying to do is to gather more information as possible in each country, and trying to help them to understand, okay, if we are going to launch a pop-up event, which different characteristics this pop-up event should have, if, and probably will, social distancing will continue to exist. So if we're talking about fashion, how can we, if we launch a pop-up in fashion, how can we make that, that the people come in with a certain flow, and how fitting rooms can be used in a certain way, depending, of course, on the specific consumer and on the rules and on the curve of contagions of each country, which allows us to do more things than others. But so far, it's where we're picking up more to a certain return of normality is Germany and Austria.
And when we spoke the other day, just to kind of prep for this, you had mentioned, am I saying it correctly, Fidgetal?
Yeah, the Fidget. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's something that was already existing before. Amazon is always bringing new ideas. They already years ago launched a pop-up store in London for the Black Friday. That it was like that, but it's something that other companies have been experimenting more and more, and probably this is something that we will investigate more, because with changing the setting of the purchasing experience, which means that we cannot go inside a store anymore and try everything and just walk free, that we will need a certain structure and things to be probably also more practical and faster. The Fidgetal is really the combination with physical store and digital. And what a store like this allows you to do is that you have very little products in store, just the products that you want to show. And everything else is carried out by either an iPad or a device that they give you in the store, or using your own phone with the application of the brand. And so you just order everything basically by looking at what you see around the store, and then everything is just sent to you home. So of course, it allows certain steps of the purchasing curve to be cut off, making it more easier, let's say, to carry out in a certain setting where, the physical content, a lot of things have changed.
And is this, in your opinion, is this somewhere where you see retail going? Do you think they'll move in this direction now, if we have to assume that social distancing at the very least will be part of our lives for the next, who knows, a year or 2 years, maybe, whatever?
I mean, it needs to. A lot of things have been happening. I mean, we saw that everybody jumped, of course, to digital. Even if we thought that we were a very digitalized society, we saw that a lot of companies weren't ready to do that. I mean, even Amazon, that it's basically just specializing in everything online, they had a lot of problems because the demand went up. A lot of companies weren't ready because they didn't have all the system developed so much to the extent of having a bigger amount of consumers. So companies needs to invest a lot on that, on digitalizing aspects that they hadn't done until now. So that's something that depends on if companies will be able to take that road. But I do see that maybe Fidgetal is like the completely extreme of the whole funnel, let's say. But I do see the company needs to digitalize more certain aspects of how they do their business, because if this comes out again, or there would be another wave of infection and so on, or I don't think infection is the right word for a virus. It's probably contagious. If we cannot open the store, you need to guarantee that you can again serve your consumers. So how are you gonna do that? Maybe going completely digital is something that, for example, Zara can do. They had an experience for a certain longer time a couple of years ago in the UK, and the whole store was completely digital. It was huge, but they also have a lot of money, and they are very, very specialized in digitalizing everything, and they already have a more integrated system when it comes to stores and their e-commerce. But I would do recommend to any brand, to the extent that they can in this moment, is to revise all their e-commerce platforms, their digital experience, because it will be more and more needed.
I think we touched on it as well the last time, in the sense that obviously there's going to be caution, after this. And some companies will be cautious to the point where they say, all right, we just need to be careful now, because if this happens again, we don't want to be in the same situation, etc. But then you maybe get other companies who are going to just say, all right, well, we need to focus now on preparing so that we can actually be one of the companies that does well out of the back of this if it does happen again, which it's possible. And I'm beginning to see this with the conversations I'm having with others as well. I think one of the major things is, across nearly all sectors, really, I mean, from small to medium to large, I think a lot of companies have been kind of bootstrapping for quite a long time, and a lot of businesses doing the same type of thing. And we're seeing it now, for example, with the airlines. You would have assumed, wow, they must have a lot of money, but no, they've just, now all of a sudden they're in critical condition. So I think a lot of businesses are going to look to try and become a bit more self-sustained, and a little bit more agile in the respect that if they have to work from home or they can't do their particular service, there must be something else that they can be offering so that they can continue to earn money, for example. I don't know. But from what you've said there, then what do you think the outlook is for the rest of the year up until the end of 2020? How do you see things?
Yeah, that's like what is it? How do you say $1 million question?
Yeah.
I guess everything depends on how things will develop over I would say summer. I think summer is going to be a big rehearsal, because people will be wanted to, I mean, summer above all in Europe, it's like a moment of like everybody is out and about. This will probably you spend more money. So it's going to be a big rehearsal on then how it's going to be the rest of the year. I think that if companies prepare, meaning if they make now and today an assessment of what I've done until now and that I shouldn't do anymore because the circumstances have changed, what are my new business needs, and where can I be so flexible to change? Because I mean, of course, you assess what is going on, what you need to change, but then you also need to understand that in certain key points of that change, you will need to be flexible to adapt to whatever it will happen, how it will go, because it would be up and down probably. And I'm saying that this probably is the best case scenario. Maybe it could even go worse. So that will guarantee the success of having a certain continuity of your business. And of course, big responsibility is on us as people. Yeah. Meaning that if we go out with the understanding that the situation is changed and we're not living in a world like before, that we can just go out and do things normally, we will help each other, and we will help also the businesses to run, because if another wave comes and we have to close everything again, that is going to will have an impact for everybody. I mean, even if your sector is not directly in threat, anyways, like if the economy goes down, it's bad for everybody. So yeah, for me the key, it's really flexibility in terms of understanding which are the changes that you can do, but also looking at the future of what you can and how you can keep adapting yourself. So, and the creativity, of course, that's always help us, everybody. And of course, technology. We were talking earlier about all these new pop-up events and online digital pop-up events and digital platforms that now offer so many different things. So I would suggest also to any sector to investigate that, because it's the future and you can always reinvent yourself somehow. There is this company, for example, in Italy, they were specialized in experiential dinners event, where you went and it was like a total surprise, everything. And of course they couldn't do that anymore. So they reinvented themselves, selling boxes with all the ingredients.
Brilliant.
Then you can order the box and then you follow online the class and the interaction with someone that tells you how to cook. And they were even, really telling all the ideas, like you can give it as a present for someone's birthday, and then each one cooks at his own home. Like, so I don't think the digital is has a limit for what your business has to offer. Is how much you're able to creatively apply what the digital can offer for your needs.
Yeah,
and I see there like a bunch of possibilities.
Yeah, that's so true. And maybe that's the intimidating part for some, because there are so many possibilities, because as you say, with digitally you can offer almost anything at this point. So it's a bit intimidating. The funnel is too wide for some people, I guess. Now it's just like, well, where do I start? All right. And then just to wrap it up then, let's imagine 5 years from now, and a year and a half, 2 years from now, we have a vaccine and we never have to speak about the coronavirus again. It's nothing. It doesn't exist. And we're 5 years down the future now. What fundamental changes do you think we might have as a result of this?
Of course, everything depends on how long this persists, because of course the longest a situation persists, more we assume and more gets embedded in our life, in our routine. But I do think that all those trends, like for example, digitalizing work, doing work from home, but then digitalizing, because a lot of companies didn't have that capacity still to make people work from home because they weren't enough digitalized. This is something that I think won't go back to how it was before the crisis. I mean, now more companies are working from home. They will be work from home probably who can until the end of the year, for sure, until we don't see how things evolve. Twitter has already communicated that they're going to work from home forever. So I don't see going back to the way that we were doing things before, because it touches so many other points of our life. It has so many, not going to work every day touches so many things that were on the table, like environmental issues, well-being, a lot of central things that were already very important, and then we were trying to change it as a society, but things were still like clicking so much. So this has like pushed us forward in that sense. And then, of course, when something changes like that, then there are consequences that maybe you don't see right away, but that they will develop. Less people going to work every day with a car will mean that probably big cities will be able to organize themselves better to allow people that live in the city to use alternative and more friendly transportation means. There are already several projects in big cities like Milan. In London, I think I was reading this morning that they were trying to understand how they could offer that. So maybe that what you won't see right away, but you would see it as a consequence of having changed the mobility within the city. These are the two big changes that that I see right away, that I think that they will persist after.
And you make a good point as well in regards to how long this persists, because you can see now, I mean, you know, we are 2 months into this, and already now you begin to see some people prefer to stay at home now. They don't really want, I mean, we don't have much choice about going out anyway here in Spain, obviously. I mean, we can go for exercise now, which is fantastic. But even still, I know some people that choose not to even do that now because they're just so comfortable at home, or they feel a bit uncomfortable about going out because they might maybe catch the virus or something like this. Yeah. So, and that's 2 months, you know, if for example, you know, I don't know anything about this, but from what I've read or seen, you know, they talk about could be 18 months before we have a vaccine, could be longer. If we're like this for 12 months or we're like this for 6 or 8 months, you know, I think societally things will change. And as you say, you know, that then not only will consumer behavior change as a result of that, but any plans that, I think the best advice is as you've said, you know, just digitize as much as possible and be as agile as you can to be able to offer what you offer, because we don't know what people will want, the consumer, for example, in the next 12 months. And we might find some particular things just aren't even, they're just not even a thing anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like you mentioned about the cities, Barcelona's doing the same stuff now. They're gonna start pedestrianizing a lot of the city, a lot of the streets in and around the city and stuff now as well, so that social distancing can be adhered to when people go for exercise and so on like this, or when even when restrictions are kind of reduced, people can still get out and have some space and stuff like this. So I think all of that's good. But again, yeah, I think, you know, the impact on the mindset of the public, I think, can't be underestimated over the next few months, and that will determine what's relevant for us in terms of consumers and services and so on. But you know, it's like I've said from the beginning, who knows?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point that you're making there, because staying at home, we don't realize it yet. Maybe sometimes we do, maybe when we go a little bit outside, but we haven't still had the freedom to really retake our life like it was before. So our mind is changing a bit, but we are not realizing it. So we will realize how much we have changed towards the world once that we are able to go out. And I do think that one key that companies should take also into consideration, besides flexibility, and it's connected to this, that's why it came out to my mind, is they should ask themselves, how will I get back my consumers' confidence, let's say? In the sense that some consumers might be very, will feel uncomfortable, you know, to enter into a store. Like we will need to assess, like, what are the effects that this has had on us as consumers, and companies will have to decide how to address this. And not only towards consumers, but we haven't talked about the employees. That's also very important. I mean, how am I going to feel my employees comfortable coming to work in those companies where I need to have them, in places where we need to serve people, or in places where there is a chain production, so they need to be working with each other. So many places where people, I mean, I feel very lucky that I can stay home, but there are a lot of people out there that are going to work, and how we guarantee that they are safe. And I think as consumer also, there needs to be that transparency, you know what I mean? Like, we need to know that we are buying products where also for the customers that work there, all the safety measures are put into place, that they feel comfortable going to work and so on. And I think that there is like a big, maybe still we don't see it, but I think this is something that companies to take into consideration. I was thinking the other day about this because some time ago I read an article about this new position that they created in Hollywood. It's called intimacy coordinator, and it came out after all the Me Too and all this situation that it needed to be addressed, but of course created a lot of other side problems to manage. And basically these intimacy coordinators assess that during a movie everybody feels comfortable doing certain sex scenes and so on. So that got me thinking, maybe we will have to create a certain position of someone that it's like a behavioral coordinator, let's say, that it's someone that understands which are the rules of distancing and has maybe some psychology knowledge. And in big companies where people must work and must coordinate, you know, or even we're talking all the time about consumers, but there's so many other things, so many other reality schools. I mean, here we open a Pandora box, you know, many other realities that people will have to go back. And so how are we going to guarantee that people assume the new way of behaving and they put it into place and they feel comfortable with that? So
well, I think there's a big psychological shift that'll have to happen for individuals, and then that will impact, I guess, the whole. But the more, you know, as I say, I mean, it's 2 months now we're into this, but if we're into this for 6 months, if I as an individual keep holding on to, I want my life the way it was, I want to go back to the way it was, that's just not going to be the case. So unless I accept the fact that my life the way it was in the past will be more or less the same, but there are fundamental things that are going to be different now. Maybe travel, retail keeps coming to my mind when you're talking about these experiences, because, you know, most transactional shops like bakeries are open, but that's like, I'm here, you're there, pass it to you. But in retail, you're kind of in amongst the shop, you're in amongst the people, so maybe that will be one of the ones that has a change. But I think it's going to be very hard for lots of people and businesses to kind of just adjust to this change and just kind of not roll with it, obviously, because we don't know where it's going, but just be at least let go of what we were doing before and just kind of see where this kind of moves. But easier said than done, you know. No,
totally. And that's what I'm saying. That got me thinking, maybe there would be the need to have someone in a company that helps you, that guides you, that has, like, I don't know, workshops about it. And then, I don't know, it's a whole new...
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, who is that person? Who has experience to do that? Who's lived through a pandemic, you know? I mean, it's... And as well, you know, you're in the office and someone goes to make a coffee, you're like, do I want to make a coffee now because he was touching that machine? Like, it's just all of this stuff, you know. I think I touched on it with you before. I mean, you know, I have a feeling that in the future that offices are going to be a thing of the past. You know?
Yeah, I think so too.
This makes sense that people feel safe or they feel more comfortable. And if you want to have, you know, if you still want to have a comfortable environment for your employees and you want to help them to do the best job they can do, then, you know, if they're not comfortable coming to work, then it's not going to work for the employer either.
I don't know. I have a very personal idea about offices, above all, like big offices. I mean, it's like 3 years that I don't work anymore for big companies, and I hope I don't have to do that, sincerely, because I think that the whole environment, it's not really humanized. Once that you have so many employees, is impossible. So I think that that's something also that was on the edge of changing, because when we go back to well-being, which is one of the trends that has been like leading so many sectors in the last years, and there was a lot of changes in what its working environment and how the environment has to be to feel comfortable for the employees and so on. And now it has to change, like what it was before it can be. So
and an interesting point on that as well is that people that I know who traditionally work in offices, usually when you are self-employed or you're a freelancer or you're entrepreneurial or one of these things and you work from home or whatever, you kind of work, sometimes you work later, sometimes you won't and so on, but you kind of work the hours you need to work, and maybe sometimes you work till 10 o'clock or whatever. But if you work in an office, you go in there at 8 or 9 and you leave at 5 or 6. Everyone I know that's working in an office through this now, their boss seems to forget that they're not at home doing nothing. So they're just, oh, well, you're at home, you've nothing else to do, so you should be working, I guess. So they'll call them at 8 o'clock, they'll call them at 9 o'clock. So the expectation on them now has completely changed. And so that's something obviously has to change management as well, that the managers have to go, well, no, after 6 o'clock, I don't call this person. But because if they were in the office and they left, I would wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
But no, they're there, so they can do it, I guess, Yeah,
I think that will come with time. It's like we were saying, it's a whole set of behavioral shifts that we need to adapt to them. But and also I think it has to do then with what it means working from home. And here I see another big change. Like we are going to have to rethink about how we want our homes. Probably a lot of people in this moment, even those that were looking for a house before the crisis started, probably now if we interview them like what they're looking now, it's probably very different than what they were looking for before the crisis. Because if you have worked from home for 2 months, if you're already a couple, I mean, you need 2 spaces. I see it myself. Before I worked from home and I was like free to work whatever I want, and now we created a sort of little office, and we're like fighting who's going to work in the office now. So I mean, the settings of what it means home now has changed, the meaning. So that's something also that probably houses will, if we work more from home, will have to adapt to that, be more flexible. Also our houses, our furniture, the spaces, how we want the house around, because those 2 parts of who we are, our personal part and our professional, are going to be overlapping more. So, and probably one part of having that behavioral change of like, okay, I cannot be available all the time, is also having a place that you just dedicated to your work hours, and then you just walk out, like you almost walk out of the office.
Exactly.
And now probably we don't have it. We interview people, most of them are working from the living room, from whatever they can. Of course that makes it blurry.
I'm working out of the living room, right? And so I have the sofa there, I have a workspace. TV is here, for example. But when I'm working, I'm at the desk and I have a lamp that sits there, and it's like when that lamp is on, I'm working. And this is just my mind. Nobody else here that I need to tell this to. But then when I'm finished at work, that lamp goes off and I turn on a couple of other lamps in the room. So that room transforms into like my living space then at that point. And obviously other people will have separate rooms and so on and so forth. But I think setting yourself a mental boundary
exactly.
of that's work and that's not work, because I had to teach myself this when I started working for myself like nearly 10 years ago now, but you just don't know when you're not working. You're just always doing something. You're watching TV or you've made dinner and I'll just go and I'll do this, and you can't stop.
Yes.
And so then you just need to learn, right, it's 6 o'clock or whatever time you decide in your head, right, that's it, I'm finished.
Yeah.
But these are the things, and there's, unless you're somebody that works with your hands, like you're a mechanic or you're a carpenter or you're one of these people that you have you have a workshop or you have a garage or something like this, I think for them life should remain similar, but for office workers and people who are self-employed, I think, as you say, I think it's the just to go back briefly there on when you were talking about trends, I mean, a trend, I guess, really is just enough information over time, and then you can see, all right, well, that's kind of, we have 2 years of it in the past, so we can kind of have a good guess at where it's going to go 6 months in the future. For me, for my work, or anybody else, But after this now, it seems you just kind of rip all of that up. And now we're starting from zero now again. And we're going to need another 6 months to tell how it's gone before we can start kind of even trying to forecast anything that's going to possibly happen after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are certain things that are still valid because there are, but of course, to predict how certain things are really gonna be, yeah, I think that we need a little bit more time. I've been going through some reports that other people do, it's like, the new reports on COVID-19, and it's like, how can you really, predict how much things are gonna change and in which direction? Because if tomorrow already they find the vaccine, I mean, we will resume pretty fast, to work. It's really to work, to our lives. It's really, a lot of things will depend on, like we said before, on how long we will persist in this uncertain situation. And then from that on, we can start collecting exactly all these changes that are happening and giving us a new direction. And those trends that were already there, that they were already quite strong, yeah, those are like we said before, are being pushed. Like the example that we discussed about the remote working, that was something already on the table, and now it was like pushed very fast to, we have to do it now. While it was something that it was already developing over the years, more companies were trying to experiment that and so on.
Wow, what a time.
Yeah, interesting times though. I mean, hard because they're hard. But
it's interesting and it's terrifying and it's exciting and it's a lot of different things, But
it's
I think
a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster.
It is. Actually, that's a good analogy. And there was a podcast from an Irish guy that I've listened to from time to time. It's called the Blind Boy Podcast, and he talks a lot about like mental well-being and stuff. And so he was saying before, about when he would take on a project or he would do something that was quite stressful, he'd kind of be, oh God, he'd be getting anxious and he'd be so on and so forth like this. And so what he learned to do was he was telling himself, right, this is going to be like a roller coaster. It's going to have good times, bad times. It's going to go all over the place. But I'm safely strapped in. I'm not going to fall out. I'll get to the other end of it. It'll be okay. And that was his mindset with like big projects. And so he was saying, traditionally he would have a kind of you have your own script in your head and it's going to, oh God, I'm going to make a mess of this. It's going to be a disaster or whatever. And so he said, right, I'm going to change that, and I'm not going to say that it's going to be brilliant and I'm going to do an amazing job, because I can't guarantee that. But what he was saying was, I'm going to say I'm going to do my best and I'll cope, and that's a good enough promise to yourself to get started with, And I think that's a good thing for all of us now as well. I mean, people's mental well-being from the beginning of this has been, some people are handling it better than others, but some people are not dealing with it well at all. So, I think hopefully everybody will be able to kind of get their heads around this sooner rather than later for those people as well, in terms of, getting back to their lives or changing their businesses or whatever they have to do. But yeah, let's see how it goes. But I think, as you pointed out, just going to have to be agile and just see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to try. I think there's also a moment to just try things out. Let's jump out there and, of course, assess the situation. You always need to assess. Like if you have a business, you always need. But it's a preview not to be afraid to try new things. Also, because consumers are very receptive to that now, I think. A moment to experiment. Yeah. Okay.
Well, awesome conversation. Thanks very much for joining me, Giulia.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It was nice.
You're most welcome. Is there anything you want to wrap up with?
No. For me, again, it's like the flexibility. It's something that I guess because I've been trying to work so much on me, I think that both under a business point of view and a personal point of view, as much flexible we're able to be in this situation, the best we can come out of it, because we will. I mean, we don't see days, maybe we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, like I say, but we will. Sooner or later, this will go away and it will be on the history books. But yeah, flexibility is a key.
Yeah, that's a good point you raised as well. I mean, that's also a big point of stress for people. They're having to deal with the professional and personal kind of management at the moment as well. But yeah, let's hope for everybody anyway that they can do that, and you know, we'll come out the other end of it, as you say, hopefully better off than we were before.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Giulia.
Thank you.
And we'll stay in touch. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.